Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys from Africa. You know we love the Big C tribe. We love you in Canada. But Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 20th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Charlton, what day you say was June 18th?
June 20th. Happy summer.
June 20th. Okay, my bad. June 20th.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like June 18th. It's hot as hell down here. So we're enjoying what summer brings us. You know,
Yes.
just a sweltering day, Charlton, enjoying the world of live sports and politics.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing that when you wake up in the morning and the opportunity that you have
Yes.
to make a difference in your life and hopefully the difference in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
And that's what I look forward to every day when we get together.
Yep.
Hopefully that we have just some little tidbit of information that will spark something in someone's mind to make things better, to make them realize what opportunities lays forth for them, Charlton,
Yep.
or way they may be able to assist someone else.
I think that's very good. We always talk about what's happening in the sports universe. We have from basketball, we have the Summer League coming, the Northern California Golden West Center. We have, of course, Mike Trout's playing like he's the best player in the universe at this time for the Angels. And then we have football. Who's going to come to camp? Who's not coming to camp? And obviously, I think this nation has been praying, and we know we're a nation of the law, but prayer help. I think the whole world's been praying. We talk about the World Cup. I think a lot of people have been praying that Trump would get a heart and change his mind. I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. Big C, I'm so grateful for the Big C Sports Show. I'm grateful that I've been around media for a long time. I remember as a young boy in college, I met the late Howard Cosell, and I met him at an airport. You know, he was shy, but there was something that radiated with me about Howard. And the reason it radiated with me with meeting Howard Cosell, one of the best sports broadcasters in the history of the universe, Howard Cosell, he had this affinity for Muhammad Ali. And Ali, obviously, not just a beacon of hope for our African-American boys and girls, but someone that even mainstream, even though they tried to tear him down at the time, they also galvanized around Ali, and they made it feel like Ali is this beautiful person that he was. I just want to get your thoughts on Ali, Big C, and Howard, and how freedom of speech, when you use it, can make a difference in the world. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, Howard was a college professor, and he had a double-edged sword when he first started out with Ali.
Yep.
He knew that this was an opportunity to get some insight on racial inequality in America that he could also use in his class at the University of Charlton.
Yes.
But he also knew that if he could galvanize a relationship with Ali, and Ali was able to overcome the stripes that the government was putting him in, he would have the insight of any broadcaster in the relationship with Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
Which both of those panned out in Howard's favor. And it made him a nationally known broadcaster at the time, Charlton, because he was just a regional guy.
Yes.
But when he hitched his wagon to Ali, he gave Ali a voice in mainstream.
Yes.
He didn't shackle what Ali said like many other announcers would try to do. I remember when Ali won the world title against Sonny Liston.
Yes.
And Ali was boasting, and the broadcaster tried to silence Ali. Said, no, wait a minute, be quiet, let me talk.
Yes.
You weren't the champion. Ali was the champion. He had shocked the world.
Yes.
But the broadcaster, just as broadcasters today, Charlton, want to be the foresight of a program or an event.
Yeah.
And take it away from what the athletes are doing. But Howard was a trailblazer in many ways. When you think about a mainstream broadcaster developing a kinship
Yes.
with a minority athlete at the time when there was oppression and separation in America. There was not equality. Segregation was still the mainstream of society in America, Charles.
Yeah.
But here was Howard risking his life, taking death threats, just like Ali was.
People don't know
To
that.
prove a point that this man had done nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And that he was being wronged by the United States government, as many minorities still today are being wronged. When you look at what happened to Muhammad Ali, being stripped of his title, sentenced to prison, the same guy who passed the Voting Rights Act in America, Lyndon Johnson, allowed this to happen to Ali.
Sure did.
You have to look at that. So it's twofold when you look at an individual for what he does for a culture and what he does to hurt a culture.
Yes.
Because what he did by stripping Ali and allowing all that to occur, Charlton, was to put fear in black people at that time, Charlton, that the most powerful black man in America could still go to prison like anybody.
Yep.
So it put limitations on the thoughts and aspirations of a lot of African Americans during the time that they were going through, Charlton.
Yeah.
Even though they were marching for civil rights, that they knocked down even the most powerful. I mean, a lot of people thought Dr. King was the most powerful African American. Ali was, Charlton.
Yeah.
Because he was the most notable figure in the world. He was more known in the world than our president was at the time, and more revered.
Yeah.
So you think about, you have a white society, and the most revered man in that entire society is a black man.
Yes.
So the only thing you can do is take away everything that he has. And that's what they did to Ali. But here's a man who would not back down, who understood his rights. And we talk often, Charlton, about education on this program.
Yes.
As an athlete or even just a citizen, you must educate yourself. You cannot just think, I'm a great athlete.
Exactly.
You have to be able to read and understand your rights, know the laws, and just where society is going. Muhammad Ali was that trailblazer, and Howard Cosell assisted him in many ways because he was a mentor
Yeah.
to him also, Charlton, in teaching him how to handle the perseverance that he was dealing with during that time in society, which many athletes, you think about it today, Charlton, 50 years later, are still dealing with what Ali had to deal with at that time. That we have really not advanced other than financially in the world of sports.
That's a good
Because
point.
you're still limited, Charlton, in what you can do, what you can say. I mean, when we look at the media programs today, Charlton,
Yes.
when they talk about minority athletes, it's not always in a great light.
No.
So, you know, when we look at free agency right now with the NBA, it's all negative when they're talking about the black athletes. I haven't heard them talk about one free agent white basketball player, Charlton. Not one. They put a greed halo on top of the black athletes. Talk about, well, max contract, he's leaving this much money, he's going to lose this. They make it think that the only thing that the black athlete thinks about is money.
Yes.
Is that's the only thing that's on his mind is money. They don't talk about when these athletes look at the social atmosphere where they want to be, what community will benefit their family the most. They're going to make the money, Charlton.
Yes.
You know, if they leave 40, 50, 80 million dollars on the table,
I'll take it.
Tell
me where the table is, Big Z. Tell me where the table is. I'll go take it.
But he's telling people, I'm not broke.
Yes.
You're the guy that's desperate behind the story, not me.
Yeah.
But I have the ability as a grown, educated man to make a solid decision about my future and my family's future and my financial well-being.
That's a
So,
very
you
good
know,
point.
this is what Ali has allowed people to do. When you go back and you saw Ali with the first $1 million person boxing, the first $10 million person boxing belt, Ali set the table for what boxers made for decades.
Yeah.
Because of what he would leave on the table, Charlton, to get the deal that he wanted,
Yeah.
to make it fit his personality and where he wanted to be. Ali was a trailblazer in that, Charlton.
Not only was Ali a trailblazer, Ali's gone. He's been gone for some time now. And not just physically, but mentally, you know, with the Parkinson's and all the after effects of being what they call punch drunk. Ali still has an image that's as strong when a lot of young kids that never even saw Ali fight unless they saw it on YouTube, they still call him the greatest. I remember back in the day, there was this commercial where these young kids of all colors were saying, "I am Ali. I am Ali." And I think about, how did Ali get out there? How did his message come across when he was, what was done to Ali is the same thing that's been done to these Mexican families that come to America. He was jailed, okay? Call it what you want. They said he broke the law. They said because he wouldn't serve his country and he didn't want to go across the seas and murder people that did nothing to him. But it was mainstream that locked him up. The land of the free, home of the brave, this Christian nation that we live in. And so when I say to some of my black American brethren who look at what happened with Trump's administration and Jeff Sessions and Bannon and all them good old boys with their neo-Nazis twist, locking up people of color. And then you have people celebrating today that Trump signed an executive order stopping his draconian law, ripping apart Mexican families and separating them from their children as if he did some noble thing. Now, he gets a lot of applause for that today, but let me ask you this question for anyone listening around the world. How do you applaud somebody who did something so horrific against people of color? Okay, he didn't do it for anyone that looks like him or his grandkids. And then you applaud him when he says, we're still going to lock him up, but we're going to keep him together. I think you have 20 days to process it. The rule is still draconian. They're not searching for white people to lock up coming from Europe. Bixie, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at this rule that he signed this executive order today against something that he had already done, he said it was previous administration and the Democrats. He was the one, along with his attorney general, initiated this from day one, Charlton.
Yeah.
Saying what they were going to do to people. He didn't expect to have the public backlash and outcry through all the media outlets, Charlton.
And
even
thank you,
Fox
America. Thank you, America, for doing that.
About this.
Yes.
This was America that came after him. He didn't have a change of heart or virtue, Charlton. He saw where America didn't appreciate what he was doing, because this is a land of opportunity, and that's what the Statute of Liberty states, is that this is a land of opportunity. Bring us, you're tired, you're weak, you're poor, you're depressed, you're left out. It states that.
Yes.
And he said no, even though that's how his father got into this country, Charlton.
Sure did.
His ancestry.
Yes.
So when what he was doing, the atrocity that he was committing to these people, Charlton, it doesn't make any difference what nationality you are as American.
Nope.
You have to have the nationality of being a person, not to have been hurt and affected emotionally by what this individual was doing, along with his cabinet. And they were callous about it. They didn't care, because they knew that they could go to bed every night with security around, that their children could sleep comfortably.
Yep.
No one was going to come remove them. But when the outcry came too much, and those voices came out on those audio recordings, Charlton,
yes,
of those babies crying, that they had been taken away from their parents, from their mother.
Because of
The
Trump.
mothers didn't know where they were.
Yep.
And think about the complexity of this executive order, Charlton, that was signed today. Now, they've put the children in 4 different states at least, minimal. And they put the parents in 6 different minimal states. So what's the reunification process? He has never had a plan from day one when they started separating these families, Charlton, even on reunification. And this is one of the things that the White House didn't say today, Charlton, that they had already deported some of the parents and kidnapped the children.
Yep.
And that's kidnapping, because you can say, well, you're going to put them in foster care. No, you kidnapped these children and deported their parents.
Yep.
This is what our national government did. I don't care how they want to spin it, what terminology you want to say. When you take a child from the parent and the parent has no idea where this parent is, and you sent this parent out of the country, that's kidnapping.
Yeah.
And that's a felony. Our federal government, led by our administration, has committed felonies against humanity, and saying, well, it's the law.
Well, I tell you what, the reason that I wanted to bring up with Howard Cosell and Ali, to the eye, they're two different people. But science tells us that all life came from the African continent. And that's why I want to tell it from the mountaintop, every school teacher, not only in the United States of America, but in the world. Just Google Dr. Louis S.B. Leakey and Dr. Gregor Mendo. They're considered the world's foremost paleontologists, and also when it comes to studying genetics, DNA. There's a dominant and recessive gene. I think that's so important because just like we opened up praising Cosell and Ali, two different skin pigmentations, but they all come from the same source. Here's a little scientific experiment. According to Mendo, the genes that run through Muhammad Ali can reproduce Howard Cosell's skin complexion. That's science. That's Mendo. He also opined that the genes that run through Cosell could never reproduce Muhammad Ali's skin complexion. That's science. Why is that important? It's important because if we all know where we come from, we could respect our root a little better. Ali was given more credibility because Howard Cosell's skin complexion was more acceptable to mainstream. They both had a beautiful message. It was about acknowledging each other for their brilliance. Ali for his fight business, his business acumen outside of the ring, and Cosell as a journalist. I'm going to tie it into what just happened with Trump, because it wasn't Trump that instituted that act. There's something you talked about yesterday, Big C, and people can Google it, called the Mann Act, M-A-N-N. If you Google the Mann Act, you'll understand that all throughout the world, we all have a right to speak up for people. Just like Cosell helped Ali speak up for people of color, even though they didn't always get along, they both had the chance to voice their opinion. The Mann Act is a United States federal law passed June 25th, 1910. It is named after Congressman James Mann. And it basically tells you, you cannot take people. You cannot hold people against their will. You cannot separate people from their families. You got to understand that. It was aimed at keeping innocent girls from being lured into prostitution, but really offered to make a crime out of many kinds of consensual activities. What was happening to people of color when Cosell was speaking to Ali, it fell on deaf ears, Big C, because it came from a black voice when Ali spoke. That's why they yelled him. But with Cosell ingratiated himself with Ali, it made more people see how beautiful Ali was. Now mainstream kids are saying, I am Ali. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, to have that ideal on what society should be. Cosell was very prescient because of his intelligence, Charlton. He recognized how America was evolving at the time.
Yes.
That desegregation was coming to an end, Charlton. Segregation, rather, was coming to an end. That America was changing its direction. He knew that we had strife because we had a war that people no longer believed in, that politicians could not pull over American eyes.
Yes.
And what hurt America in that aspect, they started showing body counts on the news at night. Walter Cronkite and other news broadcasters, Charlton, started doing that. And Americans said, what? Okay, what are we getting out of this? When you had young Americans, not just the blacks, but the whites, Charlton, and they didn't persecute white Americans, Charlton, for refusing to go to war.
No.
Donald Trump, who's very intelligent, he refused to go 5 times.
5 times.
And so, he was around and no one prosecuted him. But here it is, he wants to put blasphemy on other Americans.
Yeah.
But when Cosell brought his knowledge to the forefront, because he was a very political person, Charlton.
Yes.
America had to listen, they had to pay attention, because you had these prescient people, Charlton, of Anglo intelligence.
Yep.
And minorities. It weren't just minorities any longer saying that, we don't want to do this and we're not going to take this. Mainstream got involved.
Sure did.
The rest of America had to pay attention at that point, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not just Cosell, but other mainstream leaders, Charlton, came to Ali's defense, whether it was in the entertainment industry,
Yep.
and even political leaders, Charlton.
Yep.
Saw the wrong that was being done to this man. And that's what's just like what we have right now with this immigration crisis, Charlton. America came together like they did Ali.
Yes.
And they showed our politicians what was wrong with their plot.
Yeah.
And the administration saw that this was the biggest political hit that he's taken. 2/3 of America had turned on him in a week.
Yeah.
Not a month, not a year, in a week. And he needed a way to stem that tide, Charlton.
Yeah. And I
But
think
even though he signed this executive order, it doesn't come with a solution.
No.
Because now the biggest problem is how do you match the children and the parents back up again?
You know.
Now, how do you do that?
Yeah. That's a good point, Big C. And I really applaud the media that did it. I know I watched some of the sports programming, and they didn't even know that he signed this legislation because they were so, what do you call it, ogling over someone when you think some woman's cute or some women think a guy is cute. They ogle over somebody, right? They're smitten by it. They're still smitten by wondering where LeBron James is going to go, and Trump has signed this executive order. And the thing I have with mainstream media, Howard Cosell was one of the best journalists in the history of the universe. Also one of the best sports commentators. From ABC Monday Night Football, covered boxing, did a lot of things, the Olympic, track and field, as an intelligent man. And I miss that in our media. Because outside of Big C Sports, there are many people who are dumbing down the American audience. There's so many children that tell me they don't even learn from the mothership anymore. They already know who won the game. They got Google on their phone. But what I hate to see is a lot of our sports brethren, no one says you got to be political and everything, but at least cater to the intelligent people that watch your programs too, not just a lot of dumb guys with a beer wanting to know who won the game. And that comes from people that I talk to. That's not just my spin, but if you're pricing it, it's knowledge of things before they happen. I got to bring this up. Howard Cosell, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah's not a sports person. She's not a sports figure. She never did a sports game. As far as I know, never even played sports. Maybe she did in high school or elementary school. But when Oprah interviewed Tom Brady, that was a Father's Day thing. I guess it was Tom's tacit way of saying that he agrees with egalitarianism and treating people fair. Never really came out and spoke heavily against it because there's people telling him what to say and what not to say if you want the money. So mainstream wouldn't put him on talking about equality. They had him talk about his kids. In efforts, he's saying, I'm speaking for every kid and every father. But he didn't really get deep into it. So they bring on Oprah, who's the best speaker in the universe. And I think Oprah bridged that gap that Tom couldn't do on his own. Now, I'm not saying this is anything out of the ordinary, but Big C Sports talked about it 2 days ago. Today, he's on the mothership. So, I'm just saying, if we look at our society, Big C, like Cosell and Ali, it's okay to pull people from different genres and have them talk about what's right, and I think that makes a difference, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you can pull athletes from these sports, because nationality.
Yes.
We talk about the problems that are out there in society that face many minority Americans.
Yes.
But you also have to understand what these sports shows don't do, Charlton, is that they don't take the elitist black athletes and ask them these questions, okay?
No.
As much as people want to say Tom Brady or Rodgers or any other mainstream athlete,
yes,
they don't sit LeBron James down and talk to him about that. They don't sit Steph Curry down. They don't sit Kevin Durant down. They don't do that. They don't put Marshawn Lynch. They don't put Odell Beckham Jr. They don't put Antonio Brown. They don't put Le'Veon Bell. Todd Gurley. Charlton. There's a plethora of black athletes out there that you can ask about social injustice, Charlton. These mainstream sports programs don't cross that line.
Yeah.
Because they recognize.
And Big C, I want to apologize. We're still having, I think Putin's still trying to get our phone lines because they're chopping up your phone line, but we're going to see if we can work on that. But go right ahead and keep making your point, Big C. Go right ahead, sir.
Well, Charlton, they don't want to give legs to that problem that's out there in society. So you don't get the high-profile black athlete ask these questions. We can always say the Ugandan athlete, the white athlete out there, Charlton, that they don't speak up. But they're not the ones controlling it, Charlton. It comes down to the broadcast companies. You know, if you put you take the 10 most dominant and influential African-American athletes in America, and you ask them these questions about social injustice, social reform, what would they like to see the leagues do? What would they like to see the politicians do?
Yes.
These programs will never cross that line, Charlton, because now all of a sudden you've given momentum to a cause.
Yes.
And that's not what these sports...
That's not what they want to do. And we're going to get your call back up, Big C. I think we lost your call, but we'll get you back on the line in just a moment. So, Big C, I think we got you back on the line now. But I do want to just say, in that point you're making about mainstream not crossing the line, Howard Cosell, Hall of Fame broadcaster, Muhammad Ali considered the best athlete in the history of the universe, irrespective of what sport. He's the best out there. And their platform was not a dumbing down of the American sports audience. And that's why I say a lot of young people and older people too, they say, man, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's refreshing. But I just want to tap Big C Sports on the back because of what they said, dog won't wag his tail is a sad dog. But when we talked about social and athletic and even religious issues, we talk about prayer on the Big C Sports Show. We're not anathema to that. We're not anathema to believing in God. And I hear it crossing all genres now, from sports to entertainment. But you get it all on Big C Sports. Like that restaurant, Big C, the restaurant you got down south, you get the moonshine milkshake, you get the moonshine collard greens, you get the moonshine barbecue. I think you even get you guys dip your peanuts in moonshine too, Big C? Is that what you guys do?
We boil them in that chocolate. Is what we do. But fresh boiled peanuts is a big staple down here in the South.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to that story where we were, Charlton, when I was saying that they don't talk to the top 10 athletes in America about social injustice.
Yes.
If you recall a few weeks ago on the Mothership, there was a situation that arose. They bring in Harry Edwards.
I remember that.
I respect Harry Edwards 200%, Charlton.
Yes.
Very phenomenal, intelligent minority man who's very knowledgeable about social issues over the decades here in America.
Amazing.
As much as Harry is in touch and not in touch, these athletes live it every day. Why can't we get it from the proverbial horse's mouth, as they say, Charlton?
Mainstream.
You know, why not get the athletes in there and ask them personally? You know, it's always tough. We do it as a show.
Yes.
We fill in what our thoughts are also,
Yeah.
and what athletes are thinking and what they should be doing. But when you have a platform like that where you say you have contact with every athlete, you have accessibility to every athlete, why do you ostracize these athletes and not ask them the direct questions on air live? I'm not talking about tape delayed or a recorded, edited session where you're sitting there in a room and they're in one chair, you in another chair. Put them live on the show.
Yes.
Ask the questions on the show. They will not do that, Charlton. So all of what you speak about as far as advancement and reform and change, Charlton, it will not occur because they won't give these athletes a live platform.
Yeah.
Whenever you see a recorded interview with an athlete, we spoke about this last night on the show, when they do interviews. There's so much left on the editing floor. We can't use that. We can't say that. Okay? This is what happens when you say athletes don't speak out.
Yes.
And broadcasters don't say, we can't say that on air. We're not going to say that on air. We're going to scrap that interview. Do an athlete live. I appreciate Harry Edwards. Bring in the top 10 minority athletes in America in all sports.
Yes.
Sit down. Have a quorum with them. A live one, Charlton. Don't edit it. Don't record it last week. Edit stuff out and then put it on. Put it on live.
Yeah.
You have the cough switch where you got the delay, 5 to 7 seconds. So if any profanity is ever used, you can kill that part, Charlton.
Yes.
But put these athletes on and ask them the pertinent questions so that athletes and Americans can understand. Put Shannon Brown on from the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Ask him how he felt. Ask him did he feel that the police were wrong and what they need for reform. This is what you need to do. When you don't let the real voice get out there, Charlton, of the people that have to live this every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give anybody 5 to 10 seconds on a newsreel, but you set up a 2-hour format. These programs can do this anytime, Charlton. They own the airways.
Yeah.
These athletes would gladly come in. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey. Let's get the cross-reference of major sports in America.
Yep.
Get the athletes together, Charlton. If you didn't bring but 5 from each one of the leagues, bring a cross-reference of all nationalities, because when you look at all those sports, they're international, Charlton.
Yes.
They have all nationalities playing in these leagues.
Yeah.
Get a voice from these people so that America will understand what the problems are.
Yep.
So that they'll understand that Colin Kaepernick wasn't protesting the flag.
Nope.
They weren't. He wasn't disrespecting the military. Understand what these players are about, Charles.
You know, that's a great statement you just made. I remember back in the day, Michael Jackson, and there was a lot of musicians from all genres of music, and they performed this song called "We Are the World, We Are the Children." They were talking about we're all one tribe. And of course we have different skin complexions, different skin melanin, but all life came from the African continent, and scientists know that, and you educators know it too. And when we start realizing and telling people that, because not everybody knows that, a lot of people are ignorant. They think we're all different tribes. We're not. We're one human race, just different skin complexion. But there's a dominant gene and a recessive gene, and that dominant gene is called black. You can Google it. So if you know that, then it would help racism go away. Because how could you hate yourself? I mean, some people figure out a way to do that. But if we reveal that truth, it may not happen in our generation, but over the next 10 to 15 years, as people learn to Google where all life came from, I know you're going to hear it from Big C Sports, I think we could do away with the racism that allows Trump to look at different people of different skin shades different than he looks at himself. And when you think, well, this is just against illegal aliens, or what he calls aliens, they're human beings, but Ali was treated the same. I just want people to get that. Ali was jailed for doing what Trump did, which was refusing to go to the draft, and Ali was jailed and Trump became president. Just happened to have different skin colors. I want anyone in the universe to answer this question. Who's the more decent person, Muhammad Ali or Donald Trump? Answer that question. I want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation of this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They work with Big C Sports, whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, or high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league. When you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So I applaud everyone that prays. I know Big C Sports talks about praying. There's an actor by the name of Chris Pratt. He was part of the MTV Image Awards, the Getty Images. And he even said he encouraged viewers to learn to pray. If we can learn to go to war, and we can learn to say lock them up, and that they're illegals and rapists and murderers, and grab them by the vagina, and people don't see anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying, let's teach our society to pray more. If we all believe in maybe whatever your God is, at least it has the chance to pull people together. And I love the way the clergy came out, not just in the United States of America, but Big C Sports was asking for the clergy to pray for unity in our country. Now you have politicians, former presidents, former first ladies, to pray about what Trump was doing that was wrong and draconian, and he made the first step in the right direction to do something about fixing the wrong that he did. I don't say it's just one source, Big C. This whole medium that we have called media, and I love the way you do it so fearlessly. Just tell the truth. And I'm glad that it's not just Big C Sports and CNN and a couple of other media outlets. Even the clergy got involved. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the greatest thing about power in the world is having a voice. It's not about how much you can bench. It's not about how fast you can run. It's not about how high you can jump. It's having a voice, creating an oratory that people can appreciate and understand, Charlton, to speak civility. That's where we all want to be. even when you're describing a game, and I know you put a lot of emphasis on Tom Brady about why don't he speak out?
Yes.
Why doesn't he speak out?
I think we keep losing your sound, Big C. I know Vladimir Putin's trying to tap our style and trying to crap our wires, Big C, but I'm going to have you just adjust your microphone a little bit, and we'll get back into that. Again, I just want everyone to realize part of what Big C Sports doing is real talk. Big C's calling from someplace down south. I don't know if Trump got him. You might look like you fit the profile. Maybe they're after you too, Big C. They may have capped Big C's phone. But either way, I love the fact that as a sports show, we're not just sports, we're entertainment and news. We don't want to be just dumbed down. We don't want to have intelligent people have to leave Big C Sports when they want to hear about what's going on in the world. Some people only get their news from sports, unfortunately, because there's a lot of ignorant people out there, and they're just mesmerized by, hey, do you think LeBron's going to go to L.A.? What about Chris Paul? Is he going to go to L.A. and join LeBron? Hey, what do you think about Kyrie Irving, Big C? Do you think Tom Brady's going to play until he's 45, Big C, while kids are being rounded up in concentration camps? People want to know if LeBron James is going to go to one of the houses in L.A. What an ignorant way to just live your life. Big C, back to your thoughts.
Well, talking when as I was saying, my point about Brady. Why don't the broadcasters make it a point, Charlton, during these contests? They're talking about minority athletes all night long. During the NBA Finals, did we hear anything about the social injustice? During an NFL game where they're saying NFL players are protesting, are any of the broadcasters during the contest really speaking about what the players' stance and cause is, what the players believe? They don't, Charlton. If during a Major League Baseball game, does anybody ever speak? I mean, we have minorities in Major League Baseball.
That's true.
So as long as the broadcasters, we can always talk about the athlete. There's silence, Charlton, except for that 5-10-second interview they do post-game, okay?
Yes.
That's it. You have a broadcaster have you captivated for 2.5 to 3.5 hours through a contest, yet they do not give any enlightenment or any care about what a player or a social cause is during a broadcast. And they'll tell you, well, we're just here for the game.
Yeah.
Well, why did you even mention a player and about the flag and having a stance?
Amen to
if
that.
you're just there for the game, why did you make any affordable mention to their social agenda?
Yeah.
So you're not just there for the game. You even have a thought on what the players are doing. When people say, well, sports is not the arena for this.
It is the arena.
What is the arena, Charlton?
Yeah.
Where do the players go to let their thoughts be known? It's like I said, you won't pull them together and have a special where they can talk about it. There's 5 networks, Charlton, that broadcast professional sports.
Yes.
And when I looked at the NBA playoffs, you had TNT, you had ABC, you had ESPN, all of these networks broadcasting NBA playoffs, Charlton. None of them talked about any social issue.
No,
they didn't.
Yeah.
It was never addressed.
Yep.
When we looked at the NFL last year, you still had 5 networks broadcasting that. You got the NFL Network, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN. None of those really address the social issue that's surrounding the player's stance. All they're talking about is Americans are fed up with it.
Yeah.
But they're not saying that the minorities are fed up with being targeted, shot in the street like a wild animal, Charlton.
Yeah.
You think about it, when a broadcaster talks about this, they never address the side of the minority player.
No.
They say mainstream has grown tired of these players' antics. They're not antics. So when somebody gets shot in the street, walking away from an incident, you think that when people see that on television, they're not tired of it? It's just like with these people coming across the border, Charlton, seeking a better opportunity in life.
Yes.
And they got locked up, got their children taken away from them.
Yeah.
And America got tired of that. They got tired of it. They got tired of the administration. You can point your finger at one individual who has caused a lot of problems in America.
Yes.
And today he looked at it, this is hurting my political future. Even my base can't stand this, especially when I have the religious leaders coming after me.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. And because we learned from You know, I'm so blessed to be able to learn about Dr. King. I never met Dr. King. I was too young when his life came to an end. But because of obviously TV and videotape and radio, I've heard the speech. We've all heard the I Have a Dream speech. And then the late Billy Graham. Those two beautiful men, they were so conciliatory to each other in spreading the word of God, spreading the word of Christ. No matter what your religion is, to have a faith in something greater than ourselves, I think it unites people. And to see those two men, you know, they were right. They were not perfect men, but they were decent human beings. And their message was right. It was one of egalitarianism, treating people fair. And the fact that we see it happen today, before we cover a few sports, I just want to say that what I'm so proud of being a part of a platform, Big C, you're down south, you're about 3,000 miles away from me. And we're not in the studio. I can't see what you're doing. I can't see what you're wearing. I can't see any of that. You can't see what I'm doing.
I was wearing anything.
Oh well, see, that's TMI, Big C.
You don't have to wear stuff.
TMI, Big C. I understand. But the beauty of it is that theater of the mind. If we can do it, Mothership can do it. They're all in an AC, 70-degree temperature, but they're so afraid of being human, just being humanitarian. What Dr. King and the late Billy Graham talked about, being egalitarian. And I gotta just finish with this point, because even for Trump's base, I mean, I want our president to succeed. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, I still want the presidency to succeed. Everybody should want that. If you're on an airplane, you may not like your pilot, but you want him to land the plane safely. That's what we are as a country. Now, if I can realize that Trump's enmity for Colin Kaepernick and other SOBs, I think SOBs was, well, let me Google what SOB means, Big C. Oh man, what a bad word to use, Big C. But for the people that believe that the SOBs should get the blank out of the country, I want to ask you this question. Would you believe in what the SOBs were standing for, which is what these pastors have been praying for, equality? Or would you believe in the hatred of a man says, get those SOBs out of this country, and because no one stopped him, then he started attacking children, and then the clergy stood up. Where was the clergy when he was attacking SOBs? And I mean that, because evil happens when good people stand by and do nothing. This protest was never about anti-military, but the mainstream media painted it that way, and the clergy let them do it because you could have come out and denounced that behavior if you stand for Christ and what's right. Where was the clergy when they were calling the African-American athletes the SOBs, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about the separation we have in American society. These people would not come to the forefront because I think that they got blindsided like many others because they said what the black athletes were doing was against the military in the United States. They bought into that, Charlton. They're always sympathetic. But I think where the clergy came into play here, where the children were involved, Charlton, that pulls on everybody's purse string.
Yeah.
It bothered me personally. I'm a dad.
Yeah.
I have children. And when I could hear the cries of these other children, they weren't mine. I don't even know what they looked like, Charlton. But I was touched emotionally from it.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine what they would feel like. You know, because I've been in situations where I was someplace in a store and all of a sudden the kid disappeared.
Yeah.
And I'm in a panic because they went over to the other aisle.
Yeah.
They were just in the other aisle, Charlton. And I'm in a total panic because my child was out of my sight. Because I'm looking at something and they were adventurous.
Yeah.
And they were young. I always taught my children my name. And people would always question me when we were out. Why do you have them call you by your first name instead of dad? I said, because every kid that gets lost has a dad or a mom, and that's what they know.
Yep.
So I would have my children call me by my first name all the time. And they thought it was a joke. They thought it was funny because even in the house, when they would come up and call me dad,
yeah,
I wouldn't acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they'd call me by my first name a couple times. I turn around and say, what? And they'd start laughing. So it became a game with them.
Yeah.
Just for that case, Charlton, if we ever got separated, that they could tell people who I was. And so when I see these children and hear from these children on television at night, Charlton, and they don't know who their parent is. They know it's mom, they know it's dad, and they're crying. And we have an administration without any sense of care because they're well taken care of in their positions in the administration.
Yes.
And they put these children in pens like wild animals. I look at Peter Charlton that cares more about an animal than what they did about these children. I never heard Peter come to these children's aid or defense, saying you can't lock them up like animals. And that's what they did. They locked them up like animals, had them sleeping on concrete floors. Think about that, y'all. I don't care whether it's summer. I don't care whether it's winter. Concrete is cold inside a building.
Yes.
And then the others, Charlton, they had in tents outside in 100-degree weather. So the civility of Americans being human and compassionate, I don't care whether you're for the administration or against the administration.
Just be decent.
You have to look at yourself as a person and say, is this decency?
Yeah. I think that's so true, Big C. So that's what I'm so proud of the Big C Sports platform. I do want to touch on a few things going on in the sports universe. For you knuckleheads who can't handle anything other than, hey, man, who won the game? Big C, I look at what's happening right now, and I told you my pick to go at least compete in the National League is the San Francisco Giants. And I know they had a nice series today going on with the Miami Marlins. And now you look at what happened with Hunter Strickland, a Giants reliever, punched a wall after blowing a lead and is now out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken hand. And then you look at like what LeBron James is doing, Amari Stoudemire's done, almost this to the other players. What's your thought on players that can't control their temper? Even LeBron James supposedly, allegedly, in the finals punched a chalkboard or punched something and hurt his hand, and so he had a cast on his hand after they get swept. He didn't have that cast before they were getting swept. He put it on after the sweep, Big C. Why can't some athletes control their temper? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this has gone on for decades with athletes. We've seen baseball players in the dugout with temper tantrums going after the water cooler. You know, we've seen basketball players punch the backboard standard, Charlton. But, you know, over time, athletes just get emotional. And, you know, sometimes these emotions cost your teams. You know, Hunter Strickland is going to cost the Giants their top reliever, Charlton, for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
You know, breaking his pinky finger, punching a door going into the dugout or into the locker room.
Yeah.
But, you know, the emotions of players is something, Charlton, that you can't control. And you'd like to have a player that's emotional.
Yeah.
That goes out there and leaves it all, and he cares and has compassion about competing. I mean, we see so many athletes now that are just sedentary, Charlton. It's like, hey, I'm making millions. I don't care. You can't cut me.
I got my money.
You got to pay me if you send me home. This is the mindset of so many athletes. You know, it's a bad thing for the Giants and Strickland for him to break his hand, Charlton. But I would much rather have a player who's emotionally invested in what you're trying to accomplish as a team and an organization.
Yeah.
Than just somebody sitting back being placid all the time.
Yeah, and obviously it's an emotional game, and sometimes you just can't. You got to let it out somehow. Hopefully that'll recover fine, and it won't cost his team. I know the ESPYs has this talk about who's going to be the player of the year and humanitarian and all that stuff, and they have a couple of players in there. They put Tom Brady in there with LeBron James, a couple other guys, J.J. Watt. I think it obviously has to be either Watt or LeBron James when you look at what they do offside of the playing surface. I don't know how they could say that Tom competes with those guys, but when it comes to LeBron James and Watt, and there were some people saying Harden, but I also want to bring up the fact in the Bay Area, Colin Kaepernick, even though he's not, I guess that SOB can't get a job. Trump said that the employment rate is the lowest it's been in a few decades, but he won't. That SOB still can't get work, Big C. Your thoughts on his low job rate, Big C?
Well, you know, it's amazing that all the followers of an individual become scared.
Yeah.
And the owners of the NFL have been around a long time.
Yeah.
And they'll be powerful for a long time.
Yeah.
But for them to have the fear of this individual saying, you cannot hire him. If you do, I'm going to send out a bad tweet about you. And he said that months ago, Charlton, to the NFL owners.
Yeah.
And you would think that these gentlemen or grown men as a group were much stronger than that.
Yeah.
But they're so concerned about their ego and what people think about them, Charlton, other than trying to win. When you look around the NFL, Charlton, There's 18 teams that don't try to win every year.
Every year, it seems.
Honestly, there's 18 teams that don't try to win. There's 12 that make the playoffs and 2 of them on the outside that tried to get there. And so when I look at these owners, what are the owners in for it for? Are they in for it for the fans? To have the fans have something that they can enjoy and appreciate? Or do you constantly put a loser on the field and say, well, that's the best we can do as an organization? Even though I know that there's somebody out there that's better than the guys that we're starting and maybe give us a chance to be a competitive team.
Yeah.
Because when he did play before, his team was competitive.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this league as a whole, and even you fans who want to sit there and say, well, he was anti-military, anti-flag, you have to address what your owner is. Is he anti-fan? Is he about profiteering off of your anguish?
Yeah.
Because if you have an owner who is not trying to put a winning product on the field, and you can look where your team has been drafting for the last 5 years in the NFL, even if not longer, Charlton. You can look at how many quarterbacks have gone through your organization.
Yes.
And has never been all-pro, never been to the playoffs. And then you ask yourself, this guy wants me to pay premium price for tickets every week and every year, and yet he won't go out and bring in premium players. And there's a player sitting out there that is better than 60% of the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah.
And nobody will touch him because some orange-faced, fake blonde-haired guy said, fire the SOBs and send them out of the country.
Yeah, that's funny. And as I just want to touch on that one more time because it just hits me in the belly. You got to feel when things are right. We always tell people. There was a lady on the news. I don't know where she was, but I just saw it on the news last night. And it's about how we keep women safe. She was jogging on a city sidewalk, and some knucklehead in a kind of a burgundy-colored vehicle pulled up aside that woman, got out, and accosted her. I guess tried to kidnap her. But this woman fought back. Thank God she fought back. That's for every young person going through that. If you give up, then you're going to be hurt. At least if you fight back, you have a chance. She's probably alive today because she fought back. Long story short, if you have a chance to fight for something, you got to do it, even if it's just with your voice. And I'm proud of all the people, it's clergy and different politicians, making a voice to correct a wrong in this country. I think we're the only sports show to do it, Big C, but that means that we're morally right on the arc of the universe. And I'm proud about that we didn't just sit down and read people the scores and have on erstwhile athletes talking about, hey, do you think this player is going to be MVP this year? Or what do you think this guy has to do to get a bigger contract? I'm so tired of dumb radio shows and TV and radio. So I'm proud of what you bring to the show. I do want to say the Charlotte Hornets traded Dwight Howard. Isn't he the original Superman with the super shoulders? But he just didn't find his... I mean, he never amounted to what he was when he played for Orlando back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts on Dwight Howard? And also, we have Mozgov traded too, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he was traded for Mozgov today with the New Jersey Nets.
Yeah.
A year ago today, Charlton, he was traded to Charlotte. But when you think about Dwight Howard, 4 teams in 4 seasons, Charlton, since leaving the Lakers. And this was a player that at one point, Charlton, was a perennial all-star. And last year, he put up all-star numbers. When you think about a center position, Charlton, he averaged 17 points a game and 12 rebounds. But you have to wonder, what's the problem? Is it Dwight Howard? Is he not getting along with players in the organizations that he is with, Charlton? Is he that bad of an influence where he was once thought about being one of the great young players in this league to that now he can't buy a home anymore? He has to rent wherever he goes?
Yeah.
So, when you look at the NBA and the movement of players, and you have to understand, you look at a friend of yours out there, Boogie Cousins, that was in Sacramento, that's in New Orleans now.
Yeah.
That same type of thought was about him. Ron Artest, who moved around the league. Dennis Rodman at one point had that same type of outlook from the media and even teammates, Charlton.
Yeah.
So what is the reason for these things, Charlton, when you look at great players or used to be great players on the move every year and can't seem to be stable? But you also got to look at it from this perspective, Charlton. He goes to New Jersey. New Jersey next season, not this coming season, but the following season, will have max contract room, Charlton, for 2 veterans.
Yes.
So if Dwight Howard can maintain himself, you never know who may end up in New Jersey. Now, you got to understand, Kyrie Irving's originally from New Jersey.
Yeah.
So he may be, wanting to go back to New Jersey and play in his hometown if Dwight Howard is still there, and might be able to lure another superstar, Charlton.
Well, when we talk about basketball teams being on the move and all the great things that happen, America's a beautiful country. And for anyone around the world, don't just get caught up in sports. Our country's so much more than that. I'm just proud of our country coming together, Big C, from all walks of life. That's what America is. That's what our Constitution, our founding fathers said. We want to be able to create a more perfect union. I think that's what we're doing. The California Classic for the NBA, the NBA California Classic Summer League schedule came out. It will actually be held from July 2nd, 3rd, and 5th in Sacramento, California, over in the Central Valley, at home of the Sacramento Kings, the Golden One Center, one of the most beautiful arenas in the universe. And the teams that are involved would be the Sacramento Kings, the Golden State Warriors, the Miami Heat, and the LA Lakers. July 2nd, the Kings will actually play the Lakers. The Warriors will play the Heat. July 3rd, it would be the Lakers versus the Heat, and also the Warriors versus Sacramento. And then on the 5th, you have LA, the Lakers versus Golden State, and the Heat versus Sacramento. Talk about the capital city of Sacramento, Big C, hosting an event that was all in Las Vegas last year. You would think if they're doing any type of basketball, they would have taken it to San Francisco, because obviously there's more people, or Los Angeles, there's more people there. But something about that Golden One Center, that former mayor Kevin Johnson helped build that arena, because they were about to go to Seattle or someplace else, Big C, but it wasn't going to be Sacramento. Now they're hosting Summer League NBA basketball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at Las Vegas and what has occurred there in the Summer League, a lot of these cities have run their course. It's like the NFL moving the draft to various cities, where it was in one place forever, now it's bouncing around from market to market.
Yeah.
You have to look at the NBA trying to open up its marketing opportunities, moving to other cities, creating more revenue, more licensing of product, Charlton, in these other markets.
Yes.
Having fans being able to see multi-teams, in a short amount of time, and not having to pay that full price of a season ticket, Charlton. But when you look at this may create new fans. You never know. People that might buy into the ticket base now, that they see some of the younger and upcoming stars of the league. But it's good for the NBA to move around, to create opportunities for fans in various cities to see more young players.
Yeah, I think that's great, too. And as we close out, I want to talk about the World Cup for the last few minutes. And we talk about, I just had an epiphany, Big C. I think about the World Cup being in Russia, of all places. Talk about lack of egalitarian, the leader in Putin. We know he's a horrible person. Not only does he tap the Big C sports fan, our phone lines, Big C, but they did land the World Cup. But you know what also happened throughout the world? In fact, what happened throughout the universe is that people came together and prayed for civility. The United States is still the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our White House, you may not like the person inside of it, but you gotta love our country, that every 4 years we can vote a new person in. And if they don't get the job done, then you can vote them out. At the same time, I'm proud that we had kind of a World Prayer Day and trying to treat people fair. And to see the whole world, especially mainstream, stand up for humanity when it was enacted against people of color. This is the same country that had nearly 100 years of Jim Crow after slavery was abolished. That's how egregious the United States has been. But again, we can still form a more perfect union. Whether you look at France or Spain, Brazil, Belgium, Portugal, England, Mexico, Argentina, Russia, we have so many countries that are part of the World Cup, but the land of the free, the home of the brave is not involved. Are you still feeling the World Cup? Everywhere I go, people are talking about it, even though the United States is not a part of it. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, even though we try to block the people from our southern borders, they are a large influence in America on the viewing of the World Cup.
Yeah.
And the World Cup is a world event, Charlton. It's something that the U.S. doesn't control when you think about the world of sports. is that the equality of the world that comes together to compete in these events, Charlton, where smaller nations have an opportunity to be the most dominant nation in the world when it comes to athletics.
Yes.
The U.S. is far behind as far as in the soccer world and how it competes. This is the reason why we were eliminated and not even made the World Cup circuit, Charlton.
Yeah.
But when you look at how it's viewed from the world's perspective, that is prestigious. And it's countries that involve, Charlton. The U.S. is such a separatist country that we only look at things from a city and state perspective.
Yes.
When you look at the World Cup, Charlton, those countries are represented by their country. It's like we talked about the seismic event in Mexico the other day when they beat Germany.
Yeah.
That it registered a seismic event because everyone in the country at the same time felt the same jubilation.
That's incredible.
And cheered.
That's incredible.
And so we don't get that in the U.S., Charlton.
No.
You know, our sports mentality is like our political mentality.
Yes.
You're either for or against.
Yeah.
It's as plain and as simple as that. We can't have uniformity in this country, Charlton, because we always look for an opponent.
I tell you what, the opponent is right versus wrong. If we have where there's day and night, the universe created day and night. You ever notice that? Where it's day, night is not there when it's night, day is not there. When God said, let there be light, that meant the universe was dark. I'm telling you, I'm bringing that together because we talked about Cosell and Ali opening the show. One guy's dark complected, one guy's light complected. We all come from the same source. Even in the Bible, let there be light. That meant that there had to be darkness before light. That's biblical. So as we call on the world to pray and treat people fair, stand up for the elderly, because if we get the kids out of the way, the elderly are next. We got to protect people who can't protect themselves, Big C. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, what I'm looking forward to, and I imagine a lot of our American athletes are going to want to do this now, saying, "Oh, Canada." Today,
yeah.
that great nation up north,
yeah,
legalized nationally recreational marijuana.
Wow.
So it's going to be legal nationwide starting October 17th. So you think about the professional athletes that are in Canada, Charlton.
Yes.
All of the NHL players. I know Gary Bettman has to figure out what he's going to do logistically.
Yep.
Look at the Toronto Raptors, Charlton. You know, Adam Silver scratching what little hair he has on the left on the top of his head.
Yeah.
And we also look at baseball. We have the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah.
So when I think about a country of uniformity and caring about its people, and I know that our president has a problem with Prime Minister Trudeau in Canada.
Yep.
This is the guy who recognized the need to have a sovereign nation and have everybody on the same page, something that we don't have. They welcome citizens into their country with open arms, Charlton, from foreign countries. They don't lock them up.
Yep.
And now they're not going to lock up anybody in that great nation up north for utilizing marijuana. Maybe the U.S. needs to take another look at its laws in this country, Charlton.
Well, I tell you, we say, oh, Canada, we love talking about sports. We love talking about politics, entertainment. We even talk about worshiping God. Believe in something to get rid of all this hatred that we've had going on. I'm proud of our country. I'm proud of the land of the free. Every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.